Okay, sir. Live starting.
Bandwidth low. Srinivas garu. Srinivas sir.
Yes. Good morning, all of you. A warm welcome to you all into English YouTube digital classes. We have been dealing with the theme, the wit and the humor. So far, we have covered half of the A reading, and we'll resume from where we stopped in our previous class. And here is a storyline for you all. I will help you to get back to the storyline, what we have learned so far. Abel Merriweather is the main character of our play, and presently he stays with the Slaters. And one morning, Emilia finds her father, Abel, lying dead in his bedroom. So Henry, Emilia's husband, sends the Jordans a telegram. The Jordans, Elizabeth Jordan and Ben Jordan, are expected to arrive at Slater's house any moment. Meanwhile, Emilia, Mrs. Slater, wants to pinch certain things of Abel Mary whether before Elizabeth comes. Henry opposes her insensible act. However, Henry fails to stop her from grabbing things from her father's room. In fact, he assists her in implementing her schemes. Now the Slaters are in black dress to make a show of their sorrow for the dear departed. Dear departed in the sense for their father Abel Merriweather. Later, Elizabeth and Ben arrive in morning dress block. They all pretend sorrow over Abel's death. This is what we have covered so far. Now we will start with today's proceedings. Yes. The little girl Victoria asked their father, "Are you going to pinch?" Pinch it means they want to get the bureau from grandfather's room into their sitting room. And then Henry replied her, "It's not so. The grandfather gave it to your mother before he died. And then he said this morning." Now look at Victoria's remark. Victoria says, "He was drunk this morning." Mrs. Slater appears carrying a handsome clock under her arm. Mrs. Slater, "I thought I would fetch this down as well." She puts it on the mantelpiece. "Our clock is worth nothing, and this always appealed to me." This in the sense, the clock. Clock she brought from the grandfather's room. Appeal to means attracted me. This always attracted me. Victoria says, "That's grandpa's clock. Be quiet, it's ours now. Come, Henry, lift your end." So this is the remark of Mrs. Slater. So look at Victoria's remark here. The girl is very sensitive and she shows rather affection for the grandfather. And whereas these people, the adults, her parents are very insensible. That's why they are giving a warning to her. "Be quiet, it's ours now. Come, Henry, lift your end." Now they are in the process of carrying the bureau down from grandfather's room. Yes. Now, in the process of bringing the bureau down from grandfather's room, so this is what happened now. Henry and Mrs. Slater are very heart and fleshed, very heart and fleshed. stagger in with a pretty old-fashioned bureau containing a locked desk. They put it where the chest of drawers was and straighten the ornaments, etc. There is a knock at the door. The knocking is repeated. So this is flushed. The meaning of flushed is their face become red out of emotion, and stagger, walk unsteadily. Now we have mantelpiece here. Mantelpiece is a structure built around a fireplace, a shelf projecting from the wall over the fireplace. This is mantelpiece. Yes. Mantelpiece is this. This is fireplace, in fact, and you have a structure here. The structure is usually built of marble or stone, which is fire resistant. This entire structure that is built around the fireplace is mantelpiece. Now we heard a knocking at the door, and it is an easy guess for all of us. Who could they be? Yes, Victoria ushers in Ben and Mrs. Jordan. The latter is a stout, complacent woman with an irritating air of being always right. She is wearing an outfit of new mourning. Ben is also in complete new mourning. He is rather a jolly little man, but at present trying to adapt himself to the regrettable occasion. Mrs. Jordan sails into the room solemnly, goes straight to Mrs. Slater and kisses her. Then, the men shake hands. Mrs. Jordan says, "Well, Amelia, and so he has gone at last." Mrs. Slater responds, "Yes, he has gone. He was 72 a fortnight last Sunday." She sniffs back a tear. Ben chippily, "Now, Amelia, you mustn't give way. We all got to die sometime or other." Mrs. Jordan, "And now perhaps you will tell us all about it." Okay, now come to the explanation part. Now the Jordans arrived at Slater's house. So of these two, there are two people here, Ben and Mrs. Jordan. The later is a reference to the second one actually. If I say farmer, farmer is Ben, farmer and later. When we talk about two people or two things, later is always the second one. So the later is a reference made to Mrs. Jordan. The later, Mrs. Jordan, is a stout. She's very fat and complacent, showing satisfaction with oneself, not willing to improve. Complacent here, it doesn't give any positive shade of meaning. In fact, it has a negative shade of meaning. She is too satisfied with herself and there is no willing from her side for improvement. This is what it means. With a woman of an irritating air of being always right, this is also a negative emotion that she spreads around. She is wearing an outfit of new mourning. Mourning means, what is mourning? A feeling of sadness or sorrow over the death of somebody here. Who died? Their father, Abel Mary Weather. Ben is also in complete new mourning. He is rather a jolly little man, but at present trying to adapt himself to the regrettable occasion. What is this regrettable occasion? The regrettable occasion is the assumed death of Abel Mary Weather. Mrs. Slater declared the father has gone, father has dead. So Mrs. Jordan sails means moves into the room solemnly, seriously, goes straight to Mrs. Slater and kisses her. The men shake hands. Who are the men here? Ben and Jordan. Well, Okay, the next part of our reading. Mrs. Slater says, so what is the last thing they asked here? Now perhaps you tell us all about it. What happened? How he left this world? How the Abel Meriwether was dead? No, they have to tell the story now. Mrs. Slater is saying, father had been merry, very cheerful. This morning, he went out soon after breakfast. It is the morning time, actually. Breakfast time is in the morning. So the action in the play takes place in the morning. This is also very important point to note down. To pay his insurance. Ben, my word is nothing but my goodness. It is a word that shows sudden surprise. My word, it's a good thing he did, Mr. Jordan. He always was thoughtful in that way. He was too honorable to have gone without paying his premium. So look at this one here. Too honorable means is not honorable in case he failed to pay the premium, because he paid the premium before he died. That's what Mr. Jordan means here. Henry. And when I came in, I found him undressed, means he's in nightgown, sure enough, and snug in bed. Snug, comfortable and warm. Mrs. Slater. And when we had finished, look at the contraction here, we had. So the following side of this contraction, we have verb in V3 form, past participle. So this contraction, when followed by a past participle, is always pronounced as we had finished dinner. I thought I would take up a bit of something on a tray. He was lying there for all the world as if he was asleep. He was lying there. He was lying there exactly as if he was asleep. So this, if you can replace this, for all the world as if, is replaced by exactly as if he was asleep. So I put the tray down on the bureau, correcting herself, because she brought the bureau down and replaced with her old shabby desks on the chest of drawers. Means this was replaced, actually bureau was replaced by old chest of drawers, and went to waken him a pause. He was quite cold to touch. A pause. They wiped their eyes and snipped back tears. So Mr. Slater says this is what happened. Then what she made, in a normal situation, generally we call for a doctor. But what Slater did, she just sent a telegram to Elizabeth, and now we'll see what happens next. Mr. Slater says, rising briskly, at length, in a business-like tone, well, will you go up and look at him now, or shall we have tea? Mr. Jordan says, what do you say, Ben? Ben, I am not particular. This shows the men, both Ben here, particularly this is Ben, and Henry, they don't show any individuality. They don't have any individuality, and they are henpecked. They simply obey the orders of or the advices of their wives. Mrs. Jordan, surveying the table, well, then, if the kettle is ready, we may as well have tea first. Mrs. Slater puts the kettle on the fire and gets tea ready. Henry, one thing we may as well decide now is the announcement in the paper. So Henry is always sensible. He expresses his opinion very fairly in the beginning, but later, because of a tendency, he just yields to the commands, orders of Mrs. Slater. So that's the difficulty with man. Otherwise, he is good. He is talking about the announcement of the death in the newspaper, that is obituary. Mr. Jordan, I was thinking of that. What would you put? A pause. Mr. Jordan says, well, will think about it. It in the sense, so giving the death notice in the newspapers, this part. Making an announcement in the newspapers is referred to as it after tea, and then we'll look through his bits of things and make a list of them. There is all the furniture in his room. So it clearly shows us both the daughters, they are not worried about their father's death. They're simply busy and to focus on the leftovers. They want to prepare a list of it. And even the sons-in-law, they are also not bothered about this particular thing. Even though Henry made an announcement, but nobody paid attention to that, and it has fallen on their deaf ears, right? Next part of our reading. Now Henry is saying, there is no jewelry or valuables of that sort, Mr. Jordan, except his gold watch. I told you, I've been telling you from the beginning, both these sisters are very smart in terms of their schemes here. Before the arrival of Elizabeth, Mrs. Slater has pinched certain things, slippers, clock, and father's bureau. Now she is ready with a scheme here. Now look at this one. Mrs. Jordan says, except his gold watch. Now she wants to grab this one. He promised that to our Jimmy. Mrs. Slater promised your Jimmy? I never heard of that. She is not convinced. Mrs. Slater is not convinced with the remarks of Jordan. And that's why Mrs. Jordan saying, oh, but he did, Amelia. When he was living with us, he was very fond of our Jimmy. Jimmy is, this character has no role to play on the stage, but Jimmy is the son of Jordan's. Elizabeth says he was very fond of our Jimmy. Our grandfather liked him very much. Mrs. Slater, well, the well here shows it is, she's surprised to hear that, and moreover, she's not convinced. I don't know. Means she's not approving what is stated by Mrs. Jordan. Ben, anyhow, there is his insurance money. Have you got a receipt for the premium he paid this morning? Mrs. Slater, I haven't seen it. Victoria jumps up from the sofa and comes behind the table. Victoria, Mother, I don't think Grandpa went to pay his insurance this morning. He went. Now, his Jimmy, I already told, son of the Jordans. And premium is this. Premium, an amount to be paid for a contract of insurance. That is premium. The next part of our reading is this. Victoria says, yes, but he didn't go into the town. He met old Mr. Tattersall down the street, and they went off past St. Philip's Church. Ben, do you think he hasn't paid it? Was it overdue? Overdue in the sense, was it not paid? Mrs. Slater, I should think it was overdue. I should think it was not paid. Mr. Jordan, something tells me he hasn't paid it. Ben, the drunken old beggar. The drunken old beggar is Abel Meriwether. Mrs. Jordan, he has done it on purpose just to annoy us. Mrs. Slater says, after all I have done for him, having to put up with him in the house these 3 years, it's nothing short of swindling, nothing short of cheating. What is cheating here? This man has died without paying insurance premium. That's why the daughter, Mrs. Slater, the elder daughter, saying he has done it on a purpose and nothing but swindling. He has cheated us. Mrs. Jordan, I had to put up with him for 5 years. Before coming to Slater's, He stayed with Jordans for 5 years. Presently, he is living with Slaters, Mrs. Slater. And you were trying to turn him over to us all the time. Means you're trying to send him to us every time, Henry says. But we don't know for certain that he hasn't paid the premium, Mrs. Slater. Victoria, run upstairs and fetch that bunch of keys that's on your grandpa's dressing table. Victoria responds timidly in grandpa's room. This girl is not showing any strains of courage. She's not courageous here in grandpa's room. She's rather afraid to enter that one. Mrs. Slater says, yes. Victoria, I don't like to. Mrs. Slater, don't talk so silly. There is no one can hurt you. Victoria goes out reluctantly. So she's not interested, but she's forced to go, that is reluctantly. We'll see if he has locked the receipt in the bureau. In where? In this thing, he rises and examines it. Mrs. Jordan also rising. Where did you pick that up, Amelia? It's new since last I was here. They examine it closely. So both this wife and husband, the Jordans got suspicious about this one. They smell this. Victoria has pinched it from upstairs. Mrs. Slater, oh, Henry picked it up one day. Henry brought it one day. It's not bought, brought only. From where? We don't know. Victoria returns very scared. She closes the door after her. Victoria says, Mother, Mother, Mrs. Slater, what is it, child? Scared is frightened. Now, why did Victoria become frightened? There is a scope for question here. In your reading section A part, reading comprehension, under reading comprehension, you have questions. First 4 are 1 to 4. They are multiple choice questions. So this is the space. This space allows us to have a question. Scared. What made the girl scared, or otherwise, why did Victoria become frightened? Victoria says, Grandpa is getting up. Ben, what? Mrs. Slater, what do you say? Victoria replies, Grandpa is getting up. Mrs. Jordan, Victoria's aunt, responds, the child is crazy. Crazy here is not sensible, because it is declared grandfather has died. Now Victoria is saying grandfather is getting up. Grandpa is getting up. So that's why Mrs. Jordan says the child is not sensitive. Mrs. Slater, don't talk so silly. Don't you know your grandfather has died? Victoria, no, he's getting up. I saw him. They are transfixed to become motionless. They stand still there out of astonishment. And for this astonishment, for their surprise, there is a reason with horror. And they also equally their wonder. Transfixed with amazement, Victoria clings to Mrs. Slater, her mother. Ben suddenly hissed, listen. So with a warning tone, he is alarming all of them. This is an expression to draw their attention. Hiss, listen. They look at the door. A slight chuckling is heard from upstairs. The door opens, revealing an old man clad in a faded but gay dressing gown. He is in his stocking feet. Although over 70, he is vigorous and well-colored. His bright, malicious eyes twinkle under his heavy reddish gray eyebrows. He is obviously either the old man Abel Merriweather or else his ghost. Now, transfixed we have already covered. Chuckling, used to attract attention or call for silence. It is his is a sudden expression, exclamatory remark that shows this is used to attract attention or call for silence. This is laughing inwardly, laugh quietly or inwardly. Stocking feet, stock plus stocking feet. If someone is in their stocking feet, they are wearing socks or tights or stockings but no shoes on. Means he's wearing socks without shoes. Is he? Could be Abel Merriweather or else his ghost. We are not sure of it. And how are his looks? Eyes are malicious, means unfriendly. So this is the reading segment under part A. So this very clearly shows the inaffectionate, insensible, cunning behavior of daughters towards their father. They never spread any true feelings of sorrow for him, even though they came over there to mourn over the dead man. But in fact, it has become a show for them, for both Slaters and Jordans, only for the sake of showing they dressed in black. But nobody there, none of them actually spread any feeling from the core of their hearts, leaving out only one character, that is Victoria. Victoria is very sensible, and she in fact has a true feeling for the grandfather. Here is a tip for some of the students. Some students find it difficult when there is a contraction like I contract apostrophe and D. They fail to differentiate it between whether it is I would or I had. Here is a tip for you. It is a thumb rule. In fact, when it is would is always followed by a bare infinitive without to. The example is I would like some tea. Here the contraction is would like some tea. So this is bare infinitive. The verb is always in the base form here. Whereas I, if you find it as I had, so had is always followed by the past participle, third form of the verb. I had enjoyed my tea. I had enjoyed my tea. So these two are the thumbnail rules here. This is how you differentiate between these two, I would and I had. And you had is also you had better exercise for well-being. You had better listen to your teachers. So here also it is following side of had, we have this expression better. This gives when this expression is used to give you a very strong advice. Now you have a classroom activity. Pick out all the sentences from the play having ID contraction or U followed by D contraction. Here is an example. It's lucky he had just got a new pair. So this is home assignment for you. Before I conclude, I give you this home assignment. I will just read out. Victoria stands a witness to the meanly insensible acts of her parents. She loses respect for them and also feels sorry for her grandfather. In fact, she is the only one to spread true feelings for the dead old man. Now, write the feelings of Victoria in the form of your diary. Okay, I conclude my session here. Thank you to all.